I let the alien woman go. Days later, she returned bearing a gift Captain Elias Thorne had never imagined that a routine exploration mission could turn into one of the most extraordinary moments of his life. He adjusted his helmet, the visor glowing faintly with the readings from the scanner in his hand. The planet, designated as Zithera 7, stretched endlessly before him, crimson sands rolling under a pale orange sky, dotted with jagged crystal spires that shimmered as if lit from within. It was beautiful but dangerous. Hidden among the dunes were unstable rock formations, sudden drops, and storms that could arrive without warning. The mission had been simple on paper: survey the northern canyon for mineral deposits and map any signs of life. Elias' team, 3 engineers and 2 field scientists, moved carefully across the landscape. They had grown accustomed to the planet's oddities, but the deeper they ventured, the stranger things became. Bioluminescent plants pushed through cracks in the rocks, glowing softly even under the sun, and the wind carried a faint hum that sounded almost musical. Elias had seen planets with life before, but nothing like this. As he approached the edge of a narrow canyon, his scanner started beeping frantically. "Something large, something moving," it said, its calm monotone contrasted by the urgency in its voice. Elias frowned and raised his eyes to the canyon floor. That's when he saw her. She was unlike any being he had ever encountered. Standing on the jagged rocks below, trapped within a strange energy field, was a tall woman. Her skin was smooth and iridescent, shifting colors like the surface of a bubble in sunlight. Her hair flowed behind her as if it had a life of its own, and her eyes, large, shimmering, and intelligent, locked onto his. She didn't seem frightened, only cautious, as if assessing whether he was friend or foe. Elias motioned for the team to stop. "Hold position," he said through his communicator. "She's not attacking, it looks like she's trapped." The others exchanged uncertain glances. Dr. Marlowe, one of the scientists, muttered, "Captain, it could be dangerous. We don't know what she is." "It might be some kind of predator or worse." Elias shook his head firmly. "I don't know what she is either, but she doesn't look hostile, and she's in trouble. We help her or we just leave her to die." Murmurs of disagreement floated through the communicator, but Elias ignored them. He approached the edge carefully, scanning the energy field. It seemed like a cage of glowing strands, pulsing faintly, almost like the crystal formations scattered across the planet. The scanner could not identify the technology. It was far beyond human understanding. "Captain," said one of the engineers, "if you touch that thing, it might fry you or her." Elias sighed. "Sometimes risk is part of doing the right thing." He examined the field more closely. By adjusting the frequency of a small portable device he carried, he managed to destabilize one of the strands. It sizzled and cracked, releasing a faint burst of light. The alien woman tilted her head as if curious and stepped back cautiously. Elias tried again, slowly. The strands writhed like liquid but didn't retract. He could feel the energy in the air, heavy and buzzing. Sweat formed under his helmet as he concentrated, but finally, with a soft hum, the cage collapsed. The field disappeared, leaving her free. She stepped forward, her movements graceful and unhurried. Despite the danger of the canyon cliffs, she seemed perfectly in control. She paused when she reached Elias, studying him silently. Then, almost imperceptibly, she nodded. Elias extended his hand. "It's okay. You're safe now." The alien woman's eyes flickered, and then she raised one slender hand in a gesture that mirrored his. Though she did not speak, he felt a presence in his mind, a gentle, almost musical thought. "Thank you." The team behind him murmured in awe. No one had spoken, no one needed to. Communication, it seemed, had transcended words. "Captain, how is she doing that?" asked Marlowe, voice trembling. "Telepathy," Elias replied quietly. He had read about it, studied it, even hoped it might exist in some form, but witnessing it firsthand was unlike anything else. The alien woman glanced back toward the canyon floor, her gaze sharp. Elias followed it and saw the reason for her caution: a faint shimmer in the sand, as though the ground itself were alive. He moved closer and saw small creatures, shaped like elongated insects, moving toward the area where she had been trapped. They seemed curious, not immediately aggressive, but their rapid movements made it clear they could be dangerous. The woman stepped aside, motioning toward Elias as if telling him to leave the canyon quickly. Elias nodded and called to his team. "Move back. Let's get her out of here." With careful steps, they retreated toward a more stable area. Elias kept his eyes on her, realizing something extraordinary. She was not just intelligent. She was aware, strategic, capable of understanding the world around her in ways humans might never grasp. Once they reached a safer plateau, the alien woman finally spoke, not with words, but with a series of melodic tones that resonated in their minds. Elias understood the meaning. I am called Lyra. I am grateful. The team stared wide-eyed as the connection formed. Doctor. Marlowe whispered, Captain, this is incredible. Elias nodded, a mixture of awe and responsibility settling in his chest. He turned to her and with care he asked, Are you hurt? Another wave of sound and thought. No, but I cannot stay. This place is dangerous for me. I must leave. Elias felt a pang of disappointment. He had so many questions, but he understood. Not everything could be controlled or explained. We won't stop you. But will you return? Lyra's eyes glimmered, perhaps, if the time is right. Without another word, she stepped backward, her form becoming a blur of color as she moved toward a narrow ridge. The last Elias saw of her was her hand raised in a gesture of farewell, the light of her skin reflecting the setting sun. Then she was gone, swallowed by the canyon. The team remained silent for a long moment. No one moved, no one spoke. It was as if the encounter had shifted something deep inside each of them. Finally, Elias spoke, voice low but steady. Document everything, every reading, every observation. This changes everything. Dr. Marlowe shook her head. Captain, what if she comes back? What if? She will return on her own terms, Elias said firmly. And when she does, we'll be ready, but we don't chase. We wait and we learn. That's what humans do. That's who we are. The team set up camp as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the red sand. Elias sat by the scanner, replaying the encounter in his mind. He thought about the courage it had taken to free her, the trust she had shown in accepting it, and the incredible intelligence that radiated from her presence. For the first time in years, Elias felt a sense of hope, not just for discovery, but for the future. Humanity often feared the unknown, assumed it would be hostile. Yet here on this distant planet, they had chosen compassion over fear, understanding over exploitation. That choice, small as it might seem, defined them in ways no technology or weapon ever could. Night fell and the stars appeared, millions of them stretching across the sky. The canyon below was quiet, the winds carrying only the soft hum of the alien landscape. Elias knew Lyra was out there, somewhere, watching, learning, perhaps even guiding. And in that knowledge lay both wonder and responsibility. As he drifted into fitful sleep under the alien sky, the final thought in his mind was simple. Humanity was capable of greatness. Not through conquest or domination, but through empathy, courage, and the willingness to do what was right. And in that truth, Elias found a spark of connection to something far larger than himself, something beyond human understanding, something that promised that the universe was not just a place to explore, but a place to belong the days after the encounter passed in a strange mixture of anticipation and routine. Captain Elias Thorne and his team returned to the outpost, carrying samples and data from their survey, but their minds kept drifting back to the alien woman, Lyra. Though she had vanished into the canyon, her presence lingered in every sensor reading, every flicker of light across the crimson sands. Elias found himself staring at the horizon more often than usual. The canyon walls, jagged and shimmering under the twin suns, seemed to conceal mysteries far greater than any mineral deposit or strange plant life. Every night, when the sky darkened into the deep purple of Zithera 7 twilight, he would imagine Lyra moving gracefully among the crystal formations, her eyes reflecting the light like tiny stars. The scanner she had left behind puzzled them. It was small, smooth, and glowing faintly with a soft blue light. Its surface pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. When Elias approached it, the device hummed, and he swore he felt a gentle warmth spread through his hands. Doctor. Marlowe, who had been recording all their observations, leaned over the table. Captain, we've run every diagnostic we know, but it's unlike anything we've seen. It's not just alien, it's alive somehow. Elias nodded. I know, and I think that's the point. She left it for us. She wants us to study it, to understand, not to exploit. The other engineers, however, were more skeptical. It could be dangerous, one of them said. What if it's some kind of weapon? We barely understand the energy readings. Elias raised his hand. We proceed carefully. But remember why we freed her. We don't act out of fear. We act out of curiosity and respect. The outpost itself was modest, a cluster of metal and glass structures built to withstand Zithara 7 harsh environment. Energy shields protected them from sudden storms, and sensors monitored the planet's frequent seismic activity. Inside, the human presence was almost mundane. Computers hummed, lights flickered, and the occasional radio chatter reminded them they were far from home. But for Elias, the outpost now felt different. Every corner seemed to carry the memory of Lyra's grace, the intelligence in her eyes, the way she had seemed almost to understand the human heart. He wondered how a being so different could communicate so effortlessly. On the third day after the encounter, the scanner began to react in a way they had not anticipated. It emitted a series of soft pulses, each one longer and brighter than the last. Elias approached it immediately, his pulse quickening. As he laid his hands on its surface, a vision appeared, not in the air but in his mind. He saw a landscape that was both alien and astonishingly beautiful. Vast cities with towering spires of crystal and light stretched across the horizon. Bridges of pure energy connected the structures, and strange flying vehicles moved silently through the skies. Forests of glowing trees stretched across valleys, their leaves humming softly. He felt a sense of peace but also awe. The civilization was advanced, harmonious, and in ways he could barely comprehend it was alive. "Captain, are you seeing this?" Marlowe asked, placing her hand near his. Her eyes widened as the same vision appeared in her mind, the colors and shapes filling her senses. "Yes," Elias whispered, it's incredible. She's showing us her world." The images lasted only a few minutes, but when they faded, the room seemed dimmer, as if some of the light had left with them. Elias sat back, breathless. "She trusts us," he said. "She wants us to understand, to learn." For days, the team studied the device, carefully noting its reactions and responses. It never harmed anyone, but it never worked exactly the same way twice. Sometimes it showed visions of her planet, sometimes of the surrounding area of Zithara 7, revealing hidden valleys or energy formations previously undetectable. It was as if Lyra had left a piece of herself, a guide that allowed humans to glimpse the universe from her perspective. But while the team marveled, Elias felt a deeper responsibility forming. This was not a tool. It was a connection, a bridge between species. And bridges required care, respect, and patience. One evening, as the twin suns set and the sky turned into a canvas of purples and oranges, Elias walked to the edge of the outpost and looked toward the canyon where he had first met Lyra. The wind was calm, carrying a faint musical hum. It reminded him of her presence, her voice in his mind. He whispered into the wind, almost as a joke, "Are you watching me?" There was no answer, of course, at least not in words. But for a moment, he felt certain she was there, somewhere beyond the ridge, observing, perhaps curious about how humans acted when given a choice. The following day, unusual energy readings appeared across the canyon. The instruments picked up faint pulses, similar to those from Lyra's device, spreading in a pattern that seemed deliberate. Elias studied the data with fascination. The patterns were not random. They were structured, rhythmic, almost like a message or a map. "Captain, these readings," Marlowe said, pointing at the display, "they appear to be leading somewhere, a location beyond the canyon deeper than we've explored." Elias' heart quickened. "Then that's where we go, but carefully, we don't rush, we observe, we learn. And we respect what we find." The team prepared for the journey, packing light supplies and essential equipment. They followed the energy signals, moving through narrow crevices and across unstable rock formations. At times, the pulses seemed to fade, only to grow stronger again, almost as if guiding them like a beacon. After hours of careful trekking, they arrived at a secluded valley, hidden from view by cliffs and crystalline outcrops. The air here was warmer, tinged with a strange, pleasant scent. The valley floor shimmered with bioluminescent plants, glowing softly even in the bright daylight. And in the center, partially buried in the sand, was a small crystalline object, pulsing with a soft blue light. Elias recognized it immediately. The energy pattern matched the device left at the outpost. He approached it slowly, heart pounding. He knelt and brushed the sand away, revealing its smooth surface. As he touched it, a wave of images and emotions surged through his mind. He saw Lyra standing in this very valley, surrounded by the glowing flora. She extended her hand, offering something small and delicate, something she wanted him to take. And then the vision shifted. He saw humans standing in this place long after he was gone, working alongside beings like her, learning, understanding, and growing. Elias drew back, breathless. She wants us to understand more, to see the potential, not just the danger. Marlowe looked over his shoulder, her eyes wide. It's a gift, but what is it exactly? Elias shook his head slowly. I don't know, but it's more than technology. It's knowledge, it's hope. She's giving us a chance to see that there's more to life than just survival. That we can be part of something greater. The team studied the crystal carefully, documenting everything, but Elias could not shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The pulse of the crystal, the visions, the energy patterns, they all pointed to a presence, an intelligence watching, guiding. Lyra had not simply appeared and disappeared. She had left a path, a way to understand her, and perhaps a way to learn about humanity itself. As night fell, the valley glowed like a natural cathedral. The bioluminescent plants shimmered in shades of blue, green, and violet. Elias stood alone for a moment, gazing at the patterns of light. He felt a mixture of wonder, responsibility, and anticipation. Lyra's gift was more than a tool, it was a test, a chance to show what humans were capable of when they chose empathy, curiosity, and respect over fear and greed. He turned back to the team. We stay here for the night. We study, we observe, and we prepare. Whoever or whatever she is, Lyra trusts us enough to leave this with us. We cannot fail that trust. The engineers and scientists nodded, some still skeptical, some awed, but all aware of the significance of the moment. This was more than a mission now. It was a step into the unknown, guided not by weapons or dominance, but by understanding and connection. As Elias lay in his sleeping pod that night, he could not stop thinking about the visions, about the alien world, and about Lyra herself. She had returned to him in a way that transcended physical presence, leaving behind a part of herself that could not be stolen or exploited, only respected. And in that, Elias felt a profound sense of purpose. Humanity had always been explorers, conquerors, and survivors. But here, on Zithera 7, they had the opportunity to be something more. Learners, collaborators, stewards of knowledge, and participants in a universe far grander than their own understanding. And somewhere in the vast canyon beyond the valley, Elias sensed that Lyra was watching, her presence silent but undeniable. One day she would return in person. And when she did, humanity would be ready, not for conflict, but for connection, for growth, for something that might change the course of their species forever. The outpost on Zithera 7 had settled into an uneasy rhythm. Days blurred together, the twin suns rising and falling across the crimson sands, the distant canyon always in view, and the alien hum of the planet constantly in the air. For Captain Elias Thorne, each morning began the same way, checking sensors, reviewing data, and scanning for any trace of Lyra. Then, on the 5th day after the valley encounter, the reading appeared. At first it was faint, a pulsing energy signature unlike anything recorded before. But it grew stronger with each passing hour, spreading across the canyon floor in a deliberate, patterned sweep. Elias' heart pounded. She's coming back, he whispered to himself, eyes glued to the display. The team noticed the change immediately. Captain, are you sure? Dr. Marlowe asked, her voice filled with awe. Yes, Elias said. I've been expecting this. She trusts us, and now she chooses to return. As twilight approached, the wind carrying the soft hum of the planet, the first figure appeared along the ridge. Elias froze, unable to tear his eyes away. Lyra moved with a grace that seemed almost impossible, her iridescent skin catching the last rays of the twin suns. Her presence was luminous, and even at a distance, the team could feel the intelligence and calm radiating from her. She approached the outpost slowly, each step measured, deliberate. Elias descended from the observation platform to meet her, heart pounding. For a moment, words failed him. This was no ordinary visitor. This was someone who had transcended every expectation, someone whose presence alone demanded respect. Lyra stopped a few meters away, raising a hand in greeting. Her eyes shifted colors, a soft mixture of blues and golds. Then, through the strange telepathic resonance, Elias heard her voice in his mind. You have waited. You have shown patience and respect. I return with a gift. The team stepped back, unsure of how to react. Some were mesmerized, others cautious. But Elias felt a calm certainty. We do not take what is not offered. We accept only what is freely given. Lyra held out her hands, revealing a small, crystalline device. It pulsed softly with blue and green light, and the air around it shimmered faintly. Elias recognized it immediately as something far beyond human technology. Yet, unlike weapons or tools of destruction, it radiated a sense of purpose and balance. "This is for you, for your people," Lyra continued in his mind. "It can help, but only if used wisely. Take it. Learn, protect." Elias stepped forward slowly, lifting his hands to receive the gift. The moment his fingers brushed the crystal, a wave of energy passed through him, not painful but exhilarating. Images flashed in his mind. Barren land transforming into fertile terrain, dry valleys filling with life, the energy of the planet flowing in harmony with the device. He staggered slightly but kept his focus. The visions were breathtaking. He saw human settlements thriving alongside alien flora, advanced technologies integrated seamlessly into natural landscapes, and communities working together with beings like Lyra. It was a vision of potential, of a future that could exist if humans chose wisdom over greed. The device pulsed again, and Elias felt a direct connection, as though Lyra's consciousness was offering guidance. "Use this carefully. Teach others. Protect what you value. Your choices define you." He took a deep breath and looked up at her. "We will honor your gift. We will learn and protect." Lyra's eyes glimmered, and for the first time Elias felt what could only be described as trust. Not blind trust, but deep, profound faith in humanity's ability to choose rightly. She nodded once, then stepped back. The storm that had been gathering on the horizon broke suddenly, sending winds and sand rushing across the outpost. The team struggled to secure equipment, but Elias remained focused on Lyra and the crystal. Even in the chaos, the gift pulsed steadily, untouched by the storm. When the winds died down, Lyra's figure was gone as quietly as she had arrived. Only the crystal remained, its light steady and calm. Elias held it carefully, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing upon him. The team gathered around, still in awe. "Captain," one of the engineers said, "what do we do with it? How do we even begin to understand this?" Elias looked at the device, then at the valley beyond the outpost. "We observe first, we study, we learn, and we remember why she gave it to us. It is not a tool for power. It is a chance to do something greater than ourselves." For the next several days, they experimented cautiously. The crystal responded to thought and touch, channeling energy in ways that seemed almost magical. Simple tests transformed small patches of the barren terrain around the outpost. Rocks shifted, plants grew in moments, and water flowed in patterns that had not existed before. It was not unlimited, but it was enough to demonstrate that the gift was real, powerful, and potentially transformative. But Elias knew this power came with responsibility. If misused, it could cause harm, imbalance, or even destruction. That knowledge weighed heavily on him. He spoke often to his team about restraint, about patience, and about the moral choice implicit in Lyra's gift. Humanity had been given a chance to rise above fear and greed. Failure was not an option. Late one night, as he examined the crystal, Elias felt a presence again, soft, almost like a whisper in his mind. "You are ready. Your people will learn. Trust in yourselves." He smiled faintly, feeling the weight of the words. Lyra had not returned just to give them a device. She had returned to offer guidance, to extend faith in the human spirit. It was more than technology. It was a challenge, a reminder that greatness was defined not by what one could take, but by what one chose to protect. The next morning, Elias led the team back to the valley where they had first found the crystal. They planted markers, took measurements, and observed how the device interacted with the environment. The results were astonishing. The barren ground began to show signs of life, small shoots of plants pushing through the soil, faint traces of energy spreading in patterns that suggested balance and harmony. Dr. Marlowe, documenting every detail, shook her head in disbelief. "This is incredible, the potential, it's beyond anything we imagined." Elias nodded, his gaze distant, focused on the horizon. "Yes, but the real challenge isn't understanding the device, it's understanding ourselves. How we use this power will define not just our future, but the way others see humanity." As the team worked, a subtle pattern emerged in the energy readings. Lines of force seemed to form a grid across the valley, almost like instructions or a map. Elias studied it carefully, realizing that the device was not just reactive, it was interactive. It responded to thought, intention, and choice. He felt a surge of respect for Lyra. She had not merely handed over technology, she had entrusted them with a responsibility. Humans were being tested not by strength but by wisdom. Days passed and the team grew more confident in their understanding of the device. Yet Elias never allowed complacency. Each experiment was measured, each step deliberate. He reminded the team constantly that this was a gift, not a tool for convenience or domination. Then, one evening, as the sky shifted into the deep purple of twilight, Elias noticed something remarkable. The patterns in the valley began to shift subtly, forming a pathway toward a distant ridge. The crystal pulsed in resonance with the energy lines, as if urging him to follow. He called the team together. "I believe she wants us to go further. There's more to learn, more to understand. We must follow the path, but carefully. Remember, we are not conquerors here. We are learners." The journey to the ridge was cautious but thrilling. Strange flora lit the way, bioluminescent and pulsing with energy. The air was charged, and every step seemed to carry them deeper into Lyra's presence. Elias felt as if the valley itself were alive, guiding them toward something extraordinary. At the top of the ridge, they paused. Below them stretched a hidden canyon, unlike any they had seen before. Light shimmered across its walls, forming intricate patterns, almost like a living map. In the center, a small pool of crystal-clear water reflected the twin suns. And standing beside it, waiting patiently, was Lyra. Elias' breath caught. She looked more radiant than before, her eyes brighter, her presence commanding yet serene. She extended her hands, palms up, and the crystal in Elias' grasp pulsed, responding to her energy. "You have done well," she communicated. "You have shown care, wisdom, and patience. This is only the beginning. The choice is yours. How you proceed will shape your future and that of your people." Elias nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. "We will honor your gift. We will learn, protect, and guide others as you have guided us." Lyra's eyes glimmered, and for the first time, Elias sensed a deep connection, a silent agreement between their species. She had returned not just to give a gift, but to invite collaboration, to show that humanity could rise to meet the challenges of understanding and responsibility. The team watched in awe as the crystal pulsed brighter, its energy flowing in intricate patterns, harmonizing with the natural landscape. It was a vision of potential, of cooperation, and of hope, a promise that humanity could be more than explorers or conquerors. They could be stewards, learners, and partners in a universe filled with wonder. As night fell and the stars emerged, Elias looked at Lyra and felt a profound certainty. This was the turning point. Humanity had been given a chance to define itself not by fear or aggression, but by courage, wisdom, and empathy. And with Lyra's guidance, they were ready to rise to that challenge. The valley below the ridge glowed softly under the twin suns, casting long shadows across the crystalline rocks and bioluminescent plants. Captain Elias Thorne stood at the edge, holding the crystal in his hands, feeling the gentle pulse of energy flowing from it. Lyra's presence nearby was a calming force, radiant and steady. The alien woman had returned not merely as a visitor, but as a teacher, offering humanity a chance to prove itself worthy of responsibility and understanding. Elias looked at his team, who had gathered behind him. Their expressions mixed awe, excitement, and cautious anticipation. No one spoke. Words seemed unnecessary. The crystal, the patterns in the valley, and Lyra's presence spoke louder than any explanation could. Dr. Marlowe finally broke the silence. "Captain, what do we do first? How do we even begin to understand all this?" Elias took a deep breath. "We observe, we learn, and we proceed carefully. We are not here to conquer or exploit. We are here to understand and to make choices that matter." Lyra's eyes glimmered as she stepped closer. Through the gentle telepathic resonance, her voice filled Elias' mind. "You have shown patience and care. Now you will see the result of choice. Watch closely and learn what is possible when wisdom guides action." The crystal pulsed brighter, its energy radiating outward. The valley responded immediately. Dry soil softened and darkened, small shoots of plants breaking through the barren ground. A trickle of water appeared, winding through the rocks and reflecting the sunlight like liquid crystal. The team gasped, moving closer to witness the transformation. Elias realized that the gift was not just a tool. It was a reflection of intent. The more care and thought they put into their actions, the more the valley responded positively. If they acted recklessly, the energy would resist them. This was not a test of strength or skill, it was a test of character. Humans are capable of both creation and destruction. Lyra's voice continued in his mind. The choice is always yours. Today, you demonstrate creation. Over the next hours, the team experimented cautiously. They guided the crystal's energy to repair small sections of the valley, filling cracks in the rocks, encouraging plants to grow and directing the water flow to nourish the soil. Every action required focus and cooperation. The valley seemed to respond to not just the physical actions, but the intent behind them. Thoughtfulness, patience, and care amplified the effect. As night approached, the valley had transformed into a remarkable sight. Bioluminescent plants glowed brighter, forming natural pathways between rocks. Streams of water reflected the light of the twin suns as they sank beneath the surface, nourishing hidden roots and crystalline formations. The entire area hummed with energy, alive and balanced. Elias stood back, letting his team observe their accomplishment. "This is only a small start," he said. "The crystal shows us the potential, but it also reminds us that our choices matter. If we act recklessly, if we allow greed or fear to guide us, we risk destroying what could be created." Dr. Marlowe nodded slowly. "I think I understand. It's not just the technology, it's how we use it. The lesson is responsibility." "Yes," Elias agreed. "That is the essence of humanity. We are explorers, yes, but we are also stewards. This valley is a small part of the universe, but how we treat it reflects who we are and who we can become." For several days, they continued their work, carefully expanding the valley's transformation. They mapped energy patterns, studied how the crystal interacted with the environment, and observed the subtle effects of their intentions. Each success reinforced the idea that empathy, patience, and careful thought were more powerful than force or haste. Meanwhile, Lyra remained nearby, silent but watchful. She occasionally offered guidance through the telepathic connection, suggesting small adjustments or demonstrating subtle energy manipulations. Her presence was both reassuring and inspiring, a reminder that humanity was being trusted with something extraordinary. One morning, as Elias monitored the crystal, he noticed something remarkable. The energy patterns in the valley began to align into a new configuration. Lines of force stretched across the valley, forming intricate shapes that resembled networks and pathways. The patterns suggested expansion beyond the valley itself, a way to influence larger areas of the planet if approached wisely. "This is incredible," Elias said aloud. "She's showing us that this can reach further than we imagined, but only if we do it right." Doctor Marlowe frowned thoughtfully. "Do you think humanity is ready for this? The potential is amazing, but also immense. One mistake and we could cause damage instead of growth." Elias nodded. "Exactly, that's why this is not just a tool, it's a choice, and choices define us." Over the next several days, the team experimented on a slightly larger scale, always careful to observe and respect the valley's natural balance. The crystal's energy responded in harmony with their intention. Small areas that had once been barren began to thrive. Flowers bloomed, water collected in natural basins, and tiny creatures, native to Zithera 7, emerged, drawn to the new growth. Elias realized something profound. The crystal amplified not just physical effort, but moral and intellectual effort. The more the humans acted thoughtfully and ethically, the more the environment flourished. It was as if Lyra had designed the gift to teach humanity that greatness came not from dominance, but from wisdom, empathy, and cooperation. One evening, as the team rested under the alien sky, Elias walked to the edge of the transformed valley, gazing at the horizon. He felt Lyra's presence once more, stronger than before. "You have done well," her voice resonated in his mind. "You understand the potential of choice, but this is only the beginning. The future is yours to shape." He whispered back, "We will honor your gift, we will learn. We will protect." That night, Elias reflected on everything that had happened. Humanity often measured success in conquest, power, or knowledge gained at the expense of others. But here, on this distant world, they had learned a different lesson. Greatness came from restraint, cooperation, and the courage to act ethically even when the stakes were high. The following morning, the team prepared to expand their work. Using the crystal's energy, they began carefully guiding life into neighboring valleys and plateaus. They observed the environment, adjusted their actions, and communicated constantly to ensure they remained in harmony with the planet's natural systems. Over time, small ecosystems began to emerge. Plants and flowers spread along energy lines, water flowed naturally into new basins, and creatures previously hidden in caves and crevices ventured out, curious but unharmed. Elias watched in awe as the barren landscape slowly transformed into a living network, thriving under the careful stewardship of the humans and guided by Lyra's gift. The crystal pulsed steadily, almost as if approving their efforts. And then, as they observed the patterns, Elias noticed something extraordinary. The energy lines seemed to form shapes that resembled letters, words, or symbols. He studied them carefully and realized that Lyra had left a message embedded in the energy itself, a reminder that intelligence and understanding could transcend speech, technology, and even species. Humans are capable of wisdom. He felt her voice in his mind. Use this wisely. Your actions echo across worlds. You have the power to create, to protect, and to inspire. Never forget that your choices define you. The team gathered around, each feeling the gravity of the moment. They were not just exploring, experimenting, or surviving. They were participating in a profound collaboration between species, a partnership built on trust, respect, and shared understanding. As the sun set and the stars emerged, Elias knew that the valley, the crystal, and Lyra's presence had changed them forever. Humanity had been given a glimpse of what it could become, and the responsibility was immense. Yet for the first time in his career, he felt a deep, abiding hope. The outpost was no longer just a place of observation. It was a place of learning, growth, and possibility. And as the crystal pulsed softly in his hands, Elias understood that this was more than a mission, more than a discovery. It was a chance to define humanity itself. Over the following weeks, they continued their work carefully, always mindful of the lessons Lyra had imparted. Each experiment reinforced the importance of balance, empathy, and thoughtful action. The valley thrived, spreading life and energy outward, a testament to the potential of collaboration between species. And though Lyra remained distant, appearing only occasionally, her influence was always present. She had returned with a gift, but more importantly, she had returned with a lesson. Greatness was not measured by power or conquest, but by the choices one made, the care one took, and the courage to act with wisdom and integrity. Elias stood one last time on the ridge overlooking the transformed valley. The wind carried the soft hum of Zithara 7, the glowing plants and crystal formations shimmering in harmony. The team gathered around him, tired but fulfilled, aware that they had participated in something extraordinary. This is just the beginning, Elias thought. The universe is vast, and the lessons we have learned here can guide us anywhere. Humanity is capable of greatness, not through force, but through understanding, empathy, and choice. And in that moment, with the crystal pulsing softly and Lyra's presence felt in every thought and heartbeat, Elias knew that the bond formed between species would shape the future. A future not of domination, but of partnership, wisdom, and hope. A future that humans were ready to meet with courage, respect, and the willingness to rise to their best selves.